And so let's look at Proverbs chapter 22:6. I'm going to put the English Standard Version up in front of you because it's probably the most traditional type of translation of this verse, and I don't want to confuse the situation quite yet. I'll confuse it a little later, okay? Proverbs 22:6 in the English Standard Version, and the King James Version, and actually the New American Standard Bible is similar to this, says this: train up a child in the way he should go, and even when he is old, he will not depart from it. What does it mean to train up a child in the way he should go? To train up a child in God's way. It means to use every opportunity to parent our children and remind them of the most important truth that's out there. Your acceptance in God's eyes does not have to do with your good behavior. Your acceptance in God's eyes has to do with Jesus' sacrifice on the cross. And if you've accepted that as payment for your sins, then you stand before God forgiven, justified, and at peace. Your good behavior, that's a demonstration that you understand how good God is. Your good behavior is a demonstration that you understand that God has told mommy and daddy that we must instruct you and you must obey. And when you obey, not only does it make mom and dad's heart happy, it makes God's heart happy because what you're saying is, God, you first, then my way. That's what it means to start a youth out on God's way. It's a challenge to parents to be continually planting good seed. That's the way we all understand that verse, right? The way we've all been taught that verse. The problem is, start a youth out on his way. Even when he grows old, he'll not depart from it. Who is his? The kids. While we can take this verse to mean train up a child in God's way and let's make sure we're sowing good seeds, because that's a wonderful principle, I would argue that this is the wrong verse for that. It's called sarcasm. It's the most beautiful love language that exists today. See, Solomon's gotten to this point, and what he saying is this: you go ahead. You let your kid do what he wants. You start them on that path of life. You let them be those self-centered little minions that they may be. You do that, and they'll grow up with absolutely no self-control. They'll grow up with stubbornness and a selfishness, and they will not be able to break that pattern. Go ahead. That makes the phrase at the end, when he grows old, he'll not depart from it, easier to understand, doesn't it? I would argue that Proverbs 22:6 is this: it's a warning to parents that they had better beware. They had better be correcting their child's sinful patterns of selfishness, or they're setting their child up for failure in the future. Go ahead. You let your kid get whatever they want. You let them determine your schedule. You let them tell you what they'll eat and what they won't eat. You let them tell you what time they're going to bed. You let them tell you what phone they want. The kids are going to hate me after this one. Go ahead, you let your kids determine all that. And then you make sure you make your child the very center of everything you do. You worship at their altar, and when they're old and get into the real life and realize nobody else worships them, they will crash and burn. Go ahead. Take it seriously. Go ahead. You just let your kid do whatever they want. And when they're old, they'll never escape from it. Okay, so Frank, you've got the bad news down pretty good. Can we go the other way for a second? Absolutely. Here you go. You ready? Here's the good news. Act like a farmer. You do what is right. You take that seed, you throw it in the ground. You nourish it. Ironically, you water it. And then you pray that God will bring a good yield. Because not every seed blossoms into this amazing crop. You pray that God will bring a good yield, and then you hope in God. He's the one that brings the increase, isn't he? He's the one that brings the increase. So plant and be the best parent you can with what you have. That includes humility. It includes seeking forgiveness when you aren't humble like you should be, when you're not parenting like you should. And then you entrust your child to God. He's more for your child than you'll ever be. His word is not impotent, and it will never come back empty. I know there's heartache. I know there's frustration sometimes as parents. You sow good seed, then you hope in God.